All right, so let's continue. We've been talking about, differences between insert keyframe and blank keyframe and using the frame to extend the length of things, moving things around the timeline. I showed this before, but this is just a more formal. Right now, it's like I have this drawing here of this character, and it's about 60 frames or 2 seconds. If I play this back, sometimes we may want to have things be shorter. So maybe instead of it being, 60 seconds, I want it to be 40 frames, okay, which would be about a second and a half, give or take. So I'm going to click here. This is frame 40. Hold down Shift. This creates a range. And I'm going to delete these frames, okay? I can do that by going under Edit, Timeline, Remove Frames, or Shift F5. Or you can right click, remove frames. Any of those work. Boom, shorter animation. Okay, so now it's only going to last 40 frames instead of 60. Maybe I'm just going to get rid of this. Remove frames. Okay. So hopefully that, helps you kind of make things longer or shorter. Let's talk about a situation where you don't necessarily want to extend the length of your animation, meaning you're not adding or subtracting frames, but you want to remove an action. Okay, so right now I have this animation, where the character starts, it gets eyes, it gets, a mouth, and then boom, it changes to a new character, right? Why does that happen? Well, there's a keyframe there, and the keyframe just, drew an entirely different character, right? Let's just say for the sake of argument, I go, you know what? I don't want that. Okay. Now I could, take all of this and then delete it, like we just did. But the problem with that is that would make my animation literally shorter. Okay. Sometimes you don't necessarily want to shorten the length of your animation or elongate it either. Sometimes you have time constraints. If you have a 30-second commercial, your commercial has to be 30 seconds. It can't be longer, it can't be shorter. Okay. So if you have time constraints, rather than adding or subtracting frames, what we could do is just do what's called a convert. I can get rid of this keyframe and turn it back into a regular frame, in which case this never happens, and then this just kind of elongates what is happening here. Okay, so if I go here, I can go to Modify, Timeline, Clear Keyframe, or Shift F6. See, I removed that keyframe there, but it didn't change the length of my animation. And so now when I play this lasts longer. So let's do that again. Let's just say for the sake of argument, I, draw something. I made a blank keyframe. I draw something, boom, 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 boom. There's my new keyframe, right? Let's play this back. And I go, oh, I didn't mean to do that. That looks, horrible. Well, I can go back. In this case, I'm going to right click, clear keyframe, or Shift F6, or going through the modified timeline menu. Either of those all work. Clear, and then I remove that. Okay, so clear can remove any keyframe in your animation that you've created. All right, I have this animation of a square. And what I want to do is I'm going to highlight frames 1 through 5 here. Okay. And what I'm going to do is go to Edit Copy. Okay, Command or Control C. I'm sure you guys have used, copy and paste on your phone or, in other programs like Microsoft Word or whatever. And then I'm going to go here, and it seems like what should happen is it should copy these 5 frames. But when I go here and we go to paste, it actually doesn't paste all of those frames. It actually just pastes literally the last one, okay? If you wanted the position to be the same, I guess you could do paste in place. So it's like, you can see it basically ignored the first four and only really copied the last one, right? So in Adobe Animate, when you copy and paste between frames, it's only going to copy and paste content, not the number of frames. So in other words, like it copied this content in this frame, but it didn't copy the content from multiple frames, okay? Now, what if I actually wanted to copy and paste multiple frames? So here I have, this is exercise 10. I have a bird that's being animated to go kind of in a loop. And I want to have this bird loop 3 times. Now, instead of animating it frame to frame multiple times, I can just copy and paste the frames just to save me a little bit of time and effort. So what I'm going to do is highlight these by holding down Shift to get that range to highlight those frames. I'm going to go to Edit, Timeline. And instead of using copy and paste, let's use copy frames. Okay. I'm going to copy those frames. Let's paste, go to frame 6 or 7, I should say, and then edit paste frames. Okay, so when I paste them, you can see it took those and copied them again. So now instead of having 1 rotation, I have 2. 1, 2. Let's do that again. I'm going to paste this again. So edit, timeline, paste frames. Or you can go through here. Where is it? Paste frames. Okay, so now I copied it 4 times, so it should loop 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's try this out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Boom. Okay, look at that. So that's, the idea of copying and pasting frames. If you want to repeat an action, you don't have to, as long as the action is exactly the same. Like, obviously, it's not going to, like, make it go and revert, or you know what I mean? Like, it has to be literally the same action. But you can copy multiple frames and paste them, okay? That is a possibility. Another thing we could do is reverse frames, okay? This is sometimes an animation referred to as a swing. Why is it called a swing? Well, when you swing back the other way, right? So what I'm going to do here is it's like, okay, I have this ball and it's going down. It's starting from here. Let's zoom out a little bit. And it's going down. I want it to go back up. Okay. Now I could do it by hand, but let's just say I'm being a little lazy. I'm going to copy these frames like we just did. So I'm going to go to Edit, Timeline, Copy Frames, and then I'm going to go here, and let's go to Edit, Timeline, Paste Frames. Now, the problem with this is it's going to have it do that, right? Which isn't the way it should. It should go back up. So really what I want to do is I want to reverse the order of these frames. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. So what I'm going to do is highlight these frames, and I'm going to go under Modify, Timeline, and we're going to use the option called Reverse Frames. What that will do is it'll take a range of frames and basically flip them. So the end becomes the beginning, the beginning becomes the end. All right, so I'm going to do reverse frames, boom. And so now, see how I did that? So this is what we call a swing, where it's like a lot of actions, might go back and forth. And instead of having to redraw everything again, you could just copy the existing frames and just reverse the order of them. All right, last thing I'm going to talk about is editing multiple frames at the same time. Okay, so I have a very simple drawing here. Okay, this is like a little character walking in place. Okay, let's just say for the sake of argument, I don't want the character to always be in place. I want to move this to about here. Okay. So what I could do is I could take this, copy it, or highlight it, I should say, use the selection tool, click on the edges there and drag it, right? Now that moved that particular frame, but if I go to the next frame, the problem is that I only really edited that frame. Frame 2, frame 3, frame 4, they're all independent of frame 1. So then what I'd have to do is like literally, reorder, I'd have to move each one and then like make sure using like, onion skin, or I could use like guidelines or something to make sure they're all in the same place so they all match up, right? That could be kind of a pain. So I'm going to undo this. Let's just undo that. There's a better way to do this, which is that there's this option here called edit multiple frames. Okay. And it lets you select a range of frames. Oops. Did I accidentally move something? Oh, oops. Yeah, let's revert this. I didn't. I want to make sure they're all in the same spot. All right, so what I'm doing is we're looking with this, I've set the range here, and you can actually look at all, this is showing me all of the drawings in my frames. What I'm going to do is highlight all of them and then move all of them. And so now if I turn this off, all of my frames move together. So if you need to do something where you're moving a bunch of frames, like, literally moving them position wise. Another reason why you might want to do this, maybe you want to do like a scale. So maybe I want this to be like larger, or maybe for some reason you want them rotated, like that. Now, if I turn this off, you can see how they all move together. All right. So these are just additional ways to assist with, editing frames in a frame by frame animation.